Florida doesn't want you to know this, but there's a specific law that lets them charge tourists prices that would literally be criminal in 47 other states. And the craziest part? You've already fallen for it, probably multiple times, without even realizing what was happening to your wallet. The moment you step off that plane in Orlando, Tampa, or Miami, you've already got a target on your back. And the first people aiming at it? Rental car companies. Here's what most tourists don't realize. That same Toyota Camry sitting in the lot, a Florida resident pays around $200 a week for it. You, during spring break or summer, you're shelling out closer to $340. Same car, same mileage, same everything, except your driver's license says Ohio or Michigan. But wait, it gets better. See that line item called airport concession fee? That's an extra 10 to 12% tacked onto your bill simply because you had the audacity to land at an airport. Not a service, not a benefit, just a fee for existing in the wrong location. Now here's where they really get you. The insurance pitch. The agent behind the counter will look you dead in the eyes and explain how Florida roads are dangerous, how accidents happen constantly, how you absolutely need their $30 to $50 per day coverage package. What they won't mention, your credit card probably already covers rental car insurance, completely free. I fell for this myself back in 2019, paid an extra $175 for coverage I already had through my Visa. Nobody tells you this stuff. Then comes the hold on your card, $500 or more frozen for incidentals. You won't see that money again for up to 2 weeks after returning the car. Hope you weren't planning to use that credit limit for dinner. Florida racks up over 3,000 rental car complaints with the state attorney general every single year, more than any other state. And the toll roads, they make the rental car situation look almost reasonable. Florida has over 700 miles of toll roads. That's not a typo. 700 miles of concrete designed to extract money from your wallet while you're just trying to get to the beach. Here's the scam. Locals buy a sun pass for $20 and pay normal toll rates. You, the tourist, get something called toll by plate. Sounds convenient, right? It's not. You pay nearly double the posted rate. That $2 toll, you're paying $3.75. But that's just the appetizer. The billing system operates on what I call surprise timing. Your toll invoice might arrive 3 months after your trip. By then, late fees have already kicked in. People have gotten bills for trips they barely remember taking. Now, rental car companies offer a solution. They'll rent you a transponder for $10 to $15 per day. Sounds reasonable until you do the math. A 7-day trip costs you $70 to $105 in transponder fees alone. Most tourists rack up maybe $30 in actual tolls. You're paying 3 times more for the privilege of paying tolls. And here's the part that gets people genuinely angry. Some toll plazas have eliminated cash entirely. No booth, no attendant, nothing. Just cameras snapping your plate while you drive through at 70 miles per hour, wondering what just happened. 3 weeks later, violation notice in your mailbox. I talked to a family from Wisconsin who got a toll bill for $247. They drove to Orlando and back to their hotel exactly 4 times. $247 for 4 trips. The convenience fee for paying online without a Florida account, an extra $250 per transaction. Convenient for who exactly? And if you think the roads are bad, wait until you see what the theme parks charge. Let's talk about the happiest place on earth and the most expensive. Disney invented something called dynamic pricing. Sounds fancy. It means the same ticket costs different amounts depending on when you visit. A Tuesday in September, maybe $109. The week between Christmas and New Year's, $189. Same rides, same mouse. $80 more. And here's what gets me. They don't publish a calendar showing which days are cheap. You have to click through every single date like you're defusing a bomb. One wrong move and your wallet explodes. Remember FastPass? That free system where you'd grab a ticket and come back later to skip the line? Gone. Replaced by something called Lightning Lane. Now you pay $15 to $35 per person, per day, for the privilege of not waiting 3 hours for Space Mountain. A family of 4 does the math real quick. That's up to $140 extra per day just to skip lines that used to be free. But wait, there's more. Want to visit both Magic Kingdom and Epcot in one day? You'll need a park hopper. $65 extra per ticket. Oh, and you can't hop until 2 in the afternoon now. They added restrictions while raising the price. That's like a restaurant charging more for half portions. I added up what a family of 4 actually spends on a single Disney day. Tickets, parking at $30, 2 meals inside the park where a burger costs $18, maybe some waters at $6 each, $800 before anyone buys mouse ears. Florida residents, they get annual passes at half the price you'll pay. Same parks, same characters, half the cost. Speaking of costs that don't match reality, wait until you book your vacation rental. You found the perfect beach house on Airbnb. 4 bedrooms, ocean view, that gorgeous pool glowing blue in the photos. $99 a night. Steal, right? Then checkout happens. Cleaning fee, $250. Service fee, $87. Pool heating, $120. That $99 night, now $340. And you haven't even arrived yet. Florida vacation rentals have the highest complaint rate in the country for photos not matching reality. 23% of guests report major discrepancies. That's nearly 1 in 4 people showing up to discover the ocean view means you can see water if you stand on the toilet and lean. But here's where it gets truly wild. Some owners cancel your booking last minute during spring break or Christmas week. Sorry, pipe burst. Then magically, that same property reappears online. Triple the price. Different listing. Same scam. I had a buddy arrive in Orlando to find another family already in his rental. Double booked. The owner basically shrugged. Florida law? No requirement to provide alternative accommodations. You're just stranded with your luggage and your rage. Deposits disappear too. Owners can keep your money for vague damages without showing you a single photo. Scratched floor that was already scratched? That's your $200. Thanks for visiting. Hotels aren't innocent either. Resort fees, that sneaky $30 to $50 per night, charge for amenities like pool access. The pool you assumed was included because it's a hotel and hotels have pools. That's like a movie theater charging extra for the privilege of sitting in seats. You'd think dining out would be simpler. Order food, pay for food, done. Florida tourist restaurants have other plans, and some of them involve menus you'll never see. 2 menus, same restaurant, different prices. Sounds illegal. In Florida, it's just Tuesday. Restaurants in heavy tourist zones like International Drive literally keep separate menus. Locals get one, you get the other. The difference? Sometimes 15 to 20% higher. Same steak, same sauce, same table, just a fatter bill because your accent gave you away. And the sneaky stuff doesn't stop there. Automatic gratuity. 20, sometimes 25%, quietly added to your check. No disclosure, no heads up. You tip on top because you didn't read the fine print. Now you've paid 45% in tips alone. The server thanks you twice. You didn't even notice once. Then there's market price seafood. 3 words that should terrify you. You ask the server how much the lobster costs. They smile, say it's fresh, and dodge the question like a politician at a press conference. Then the bill arrives. $52 for something that would have been $30 at a restaurant 2 blocks inland. Speaking of inland, happy hour specials, those signs promising $3 margaritas. Read the fine print. Many require a Florida ID to qualify. You're literally paying more for the same drink because you weren't born here. My personal favorite, pre-filled tip lines. You grab your credit card receipt, the suggested tip amounts start at 25%. Not 15, not 18, 25. As if anything less makes you a monster. And the math is always calculated on the total after tax. They're tipping themselves on government money. Look, tipping culture is already confusing. Florida tourist restaurants turned it into an Olympic sport, but wait until you hear how they get you before you even eat. Timeshare presentations, where 90 minutes means 4 hours. Free Disney tickets, $100 gift card, 3 nights at a resort, all yours. Just sit through a quick 90-minute presentation. 90 minutes. That's what they promise. Here's what actually happens. You show up at 9 a.m. You leave at 2 p.m. 5 hours later, your kids are crying, your spouse stops speaking to you around hour 3, and you still don't have those free tickets because you didn't buy anything. Florida hosts more timeshare presentations than any other state. About 500,000 tourists sit through them every single year. That's 500,000 people learning that 90 minutes is just a suggestion. The sales tactics? Brutal. They start friendly. Coffee, donuts, a nice slideshow. Then comes the first price, $40,000. You laugh. They don't. They bring in the manager. The price drops to $25,000. You say no. Another manager appears, $15,000. Still no? Now they're asking what's wrong with you. Don't you love your family? I watched a 72-year-old woman get surrounded by 3 salespeople once. 3, like she committed a crime by wanting to leave. And here's the kicker. Florida gives you only 10 days to cancel. 10 days. Miss that window by one afternoon, and you're locked into a contract for decades, paying maintenance fees that increase every year. For a week, you'll never actually book because availability mysteriously doesn't exist. The resale value of these timeshares? Often literally $0. Some owners pay companies thousands just to take the contract away. They're paying to escape something they paid to own. But timeshares only trap you financially. Wait until you hear how Florida beaches trap you physically. Public sand that somehow isn't public anymore. Florida has more coastline than almost any state in America. Over 1,300 miles of beaches. Sounds like paradise, right? Well, here's the problem. Good luck actually reaching the sand. Over 60% of Florida's beaches are now privately controlled. Hotels, resorts, and homeowners have figured out something clever. They can't technically own the beach, but they can own every single way to get there. So you'll see the ocean from your car, you'll smell the salt air, but the nearest public access point, 2 miles away, behind a gas station with 4 parking spots. Then there's the rope trick. Hotels stretch barriers across the sand like they're marking territory. No signs explaining the law, just implied ownership. Most tourists assume they're trespassing and leave. They're not trespassing. Everything below the high tide line belongs to the public. But who's going to argue with a security guard built like a refrigerator? I once watched a family get escorted off what turned out to be completely public sand. The hotel guard wasn't even lying. He just looked official. That was enough. Parking near beaches is its own special punishment. Meters charge $5 per hour with 2-hour limits. Do the math. That's $10 before you've even touched water. Miss the time limit by 8 minutes, $100 ticket waiting under your windshield. Some towns have actually been sued for deliberately hiding public access points. Destin got caught burying signage behind hedges, literally hiding the constitutional right to reach public coastline. Makes you wonder who these beaches are really for. And speaking of things that aren't what they seem, those wildlife experiences advertised on every billboard, the ones promising up-close encounters with Florida's famous animals, there's a reason some of those creatures look so calm in photos. Those wildlife experiences I mentioned, let's talk about what's really happening behind the scenes. Florida has more roadside zoos than any state in the country, and some of them operate in ways that would make a veterinarian cry. Ever wonder why that tiger looks so relaxed in tourist photos? Why a wild predator sits perfectly still while strangers hold it? The answer isn't good training, it's sedation. Some facilities keep animals perpetually drowsy for easier handling. $25 for a photo. The tiger pays a different price. Now, I'm not saying every wildlife attraction does this, but Florida has racked up more USDA animal welfare violations at tourist spots than any other state. That's not an opinion. That's federal documentation. Then there's the dolphin situation. $200 to swim with marine mammals kept in tanks smaller than most hotel pools. Marine biologists have called these enclosures inhumane for years. The dolphins still perform. The tourists still pay. The brochures still say educational experience. Here's what really gets me. Some places call themselves sanctuaries. Sounds noble, right? Rescued animals living out their days in peace. Except many of these sanctuaries are for-profit businesses breeding animals specifically for tourist handling. The rescue language just justifies premium admission prices. Boat tour operators promise guaranteed manatee sightings. Guaranteed. For a wild animal. How do they deliver on that promise? Sometimes by feeding protected wildlife, sometimes by harassing them until they surface. Both are illegal. Both still happen. Alligator farms advertise rescue missions while running breeding programs in the back. The baby gators tourists pay to hold weren't rescued from anything. They were hatched for Instagram. And speaking of things that'll hurt you financially, wait until you hear what happens when tourists actually need medical help. So you're at Disney, dehydrated from walking 12 miles in 95-degree heat. You feel dizzy. Someone calls an ambulance. That ride to the hospital, $1,200. Average. Before they even check your blood pressure. Here's what nobody tells tourists. Florida has zero price transparency laws for emergency medical services. You don't find out what anything costs until the bill arrives at your house 3 weeks later. Surprise. It's a mortgage payment. Emergency rooms near theme parks have figured something out. Tourists are desperate, confused, and far from home. Perfect customers, these facilities charge 3 to 4 times the national average for identical treatments. A bag of IV fluids that costs $8 wholesale, that'll be $400 on your bill. Same saline, same bag, different zip code, and your insurance probably won't help much. Most emergency services in tourist zones are out of network, deliberately. They can charge whatever they want because you didn't have time to comparison shop while having chest pains. Gets worse. Some hotels actually receive referral fees from medical transport companies. Let that sink in. The front desk has financial incentive to call an ambulance for your sunburn. Urgent care clinics play the same game. A basic visit in Orlando's tourist corridor runs $300 plus. Drive 15 minutes to a residential area, $75 for the exact same service. Same doctor network, same treatment, different prey. I talked to a family from Ohio who called 911 when their kid got dehydrated. Kid needed some fluids and rest. The bill? $5,200 for what amounted to fancy Gatorade delivery. But medical bills aren't the only things tourists overpay for without realizing it. Those souvenir shops, they've turned price gouging into performance art. That Ohio family's $5,000 bill for fancy Gatorade? Almost reasonable compared to what happens next. Walk into any gift shop within 5 miles of a major attraction. That Florida t-shirt catching your eye? $38. The exact same shirt, same design, same manufacturer, sits on Amazon for $9. 400% markup for cotton and a palm tree graphic. But here's the really sneaky part. Those authentic Florida souvenirs, made in China, every single one. I checked labels on probably 50 items at a beach shop last year. Not one manufactured anywhere near Florida. You're paying premium prices for authenticity that doesn't exist. Cruise port shops have perfected something evil. They close exactly 30 minutes before your ship departs. Coincidence? Please. They know you're panicking. No time to compare prices, no time to walk somewhere cheaper. That $40 shell necklace or nothing. And those going out of business sales? Some stores have been going out of business since 2019. Still there, still hanging the same desperate signs, still charging desperate prices. Gets better. Return policies at tourist shops basically say, too bad, so sad, in fancy legal language. All sales final. But they hide this sign behind a rack of overpriced magnets. You don't see it until you're home unpacking a $70 snow globe that doesn't even work. Here's my favorite scam. Disney sells limited edition collectibles at Disney Springs. Exclusive, rare, once in a lifetime. Those same items show up at outlet malls 8 weeks later, 70% off. Limited edition my foot. The entire Florida tourist economy runs on one simple principle. You're far from home, you're on vacation, and you won't come back to complain. They're counting on it.